while Mary welcomes Jesus by sitting at his feet to listen to him. And Jesus praises Mary for choosing the better part, prompting us maybe to wonder if Jesus himself went hungry that day. The story is really a setting of that familiar proverb about spiritual things somehow being superior to material things. Common wisdom tells us, though, that both are necessary. Like other stories involving choices or examples in the Gospels, we're both Martha and Mary. We're both Pharisee and publican. We're both saint and sinner. And sometimes to sit and to listen maybe is to choose the better part. No birds, no worrying, no fussing, no fretting. Just listen. But sometimes there's no better part to choose. And so Martha and Mary are going to appear later in the fourth gospel, in John's gospel, and Martha is still very practical. But when she hears that Jesus was coming, following the death of her brother Lazarus, she's the one that goes out to meet him. Martha's approach this time is very different than the gospel that we just heard. She picks her words very carefully, and yet she speaks what's on her mind and on her heart. Jesus doesn't interrupt until she's finished, speaking what she knows to be true. I know that whatever you ask of God, she says to Jesus, God will give you. And Jesus asks, well, how about resurrection and life? How does that sound? Not just a distant dream, a raising on the last day, but right here, right now, eternal life. Both and then asks, do you believe this? The question is whether we believe it. Do we believe that this wholly unimaginable resurrection and life is remotely possible? Not remotely as in accomplished from a distance, maybe. The resurrection and life that Jesus brings into God, into the God who we're told is love. God sent his Son into the world so that we might have life. God loved us first. And if God so loved us, then we must love one another just as Christ loved us. If we truly believe that Christ, the Son of God, is the one coming into the world, then we have places to go and work to do. Rebecca Knapp from Notre Dame describes what her house has been like over the last few months. Probably not all that different from that house on University. She writes, over the past several months, how she's transitioned to working from home with her husband and our children all quarantined together. To say that I've been distracted by many things, she writes, would be just a bit of an understatement. Before the pandemic, I thought that working full-time and being a parent was a significant challenge. I thought that adding homeschooling and working remotely to the mix of all this made my daily routine all the more difficult. I know that I'm not alone in this. So many of my family and my friends have experienced the exact same thing. Even after the school months ended and we transitioned to summer vacation, the challenges evolved. There were no summer camps. Vacations were canceled. And we were not able to see family members who lived far away. Martha is, in a sense, then, sort of a paragon of the domestic life. All of us who carry out those basic tasks of caring for our families and homes can relate to Martha's lament. Don't you care if I'm left here to do all the work by myself? Sometimes it feels like there's more work to do than we can handle. In the stress of our current challenges, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, maybe just like Martha. But there's a unique grace for me, she continues, and my family in this situation. The time that we were able to spend together is priceless. We not only have more time for family movie nights, for crafts, for board games, we also make more time for prayer together. And as Jesus tells Martha, there is need for only one thing. In these challenging times, the challenge for all of us, I think, is to choose the better part. And so the question maybe today is what does all this mean for Mia as she receives her first communion? Well, to quote Psalm 34 that we've prayed together, bless the Lord at all times. Remember how good God has been and will continue to be to you. Invite others to join in the praise of God and taste and see how good the Lord is. And as St. John reminds us, let us love one another because love is of God. God is love, and whoever remains in love remains in God, and God in them. And to always choose Jesus, the better part, as we'll sing later, the star of your whole life.